Hello everyone. This is my first wrap-up video for this class. I try to do a video on occasion when there are enough things that I've seen, like problems with assignments or challenges, something like that. So this week I'm going to talk to you about some things I saw in your writing, particularly after grading the assignment activity for Unit 3. So I have my notes. So if you see me looking down, that's probably what I'm doing, although I have cats all over, so I might be looking at one of those too. But let's jump right in. Let's see the assignment info in headings. Okay, so I saw a few papers with part one, colon, and then, reflection or something like that as a heading. So don't use assignment information in a heading. Just use a heading. And you can use the headings that come from the rubric. So reflection, or I think the second piece was integration into planning or something like that. But don't put, part one or in your on your title page, don't put unit 3 and then the name of the unit or something like that. Just write the paper without any assignment information. Now your title page should say Department of Education, University of the People, and then the class, the course number and name, but within the paper, don't include any assignment information. Okay. Live date. All right. So APA has what they call a live date. So when you are listing the date of publication in the references section, you want to be as detailed as possible. So if the publication date is October 29th of 2024, you're going to say in the reference 2024, comma, October 29th. If you have October 2024, it's going to be 2024, comma, October. If you just have the year, like maybe on a web page, it just says copyright 2024, then just the year. But APA considers that a live date, and you should include as much of the date as possible. Where it really comes into play is when you have, say, a journal article that does not have an issue number, so just a volume or just a year, because if you don't put the month of publication, someone looking for that article is going to have to search an entire year of an entire publication year to find that one article. So just always include as much of the date information as you can. And when I'm editing your papers, I will often do that if I happen to notice that you don't have the live date. But, is it required? I don't believe so, but it's definitely a thing in APA. Like I said, they consider it a live date. So I would ask that you would include as much of the date information as detailed as you can. Okay. Let's see, always. Okay, I see in writing a lot of, I always have my students work in groups. I always implement inquiry-based learning. Okay, nobody always does anything. And it doesn't add to what you're saying if it's always like am I supposed to be impressed? And I know you don't mean it that way, but it comes across as you are not bragging, but you're saying I already know how to do this. I always do that. Okay. So leave out always, because number one, nobody always does anything, and secondly, we don't need to know that you always have inquiry-based learning or you always ask your students to reflect. Just say, I have my students reflect after each paper or whatever it is. Okay. All right. In your writing, when you're making a list, you can either use bullets, which are the 12-point font, not the big bullets, not squares, just the little round dot for a bullet. If you just have items in a list. If you have items in a list that are ordinal, so you do this first, you do that, or this is most important, and then that, then you use numbers. But if you have narrative text, so if you say the first thing to do is, so number one would be catch a fish. And then you explain about how you're going to catch that fish. That's not numbered. That is a heading. So catching fish is your heading, and then put a paragraph or whatever, a sentence to describe whatever you're talking about catching the fish. And then the next item in your list is another heading and then your narrative text. So if you have a list of things, but you have explanation or elaboration, don't use bullets, don't use numbers. It's a paragraph and you're going to have a heading, and you need to think about if it's a level 2 or 3 heading. So bullets and numbers are only for just an item, just a listing an item without explanation. Okay. URL with the login. Okay, this is when I told you I was going to be looking down. Got a chat here that wants to get up. Pardon me. I guess I could pause, couldn't I? No, we're just going to get you up here. All right. Okay, it was okay. URL with a login. So APA's rule is provide a login for most electronic sources. Now, if you have to log in, so eBook Central requires a login, some login, whether it's, in our case, generally UO People, or maybe you have a subscription to something, don't include that URL, because unless someone has that same login, you're going to take them to a website that they can't access. So with particularly ebooks, now if you find a book through Google Books, absolutely include the URL, but it's only going to be a URL if you don't need a login. Now, on journal articles, include the URL, because oftentimes you can get that journal article. It might say log in through your institution, but you can get them, through Eric or something like that. So include the URL with a journal article. It's really just ebooks, or of course a hard copy book. If you have, so Shunk's book, mm, Schools That Learn, I have that hard copy, so I would not have a URL for it. But otherwise, some of you are not including URLs, and so I take the time to look it up, but I can't always find the same article or the same source that you're saying where you got it. So please include the URL. Err on the side of caution. If you're not sure if you need a login, just put the URL. But if it's eBook Central, that you definitely have to have a login, so there's kind of no point in putting that. But anything else, if you're not sure, just put the URL, because you never know who's got a login, and if nothing else, it could help that person find a free version of it, maybe. All right, so always include a URL for most electronic sources. Okay, hyperlink all or none. All right, so speaking of URLs, either hyperlink all your URLs or none of your URLs. We want to be consistent so the reader knows, well, I'm going to have to do a copy paste, or, oh, I can just right click or left click, whatever. But either hyperlink all or none. I generally hyperlink because it's easier for the reader, but if it's in a magazine or a journal, it's probably not going to be hyperlinked. So, whatever. But I find when I type in a URL, it automatically hyperlinks if I hit the enter key. So I just generally hyperlink, but the point is all or none. All right, now specific to this assignment for Unit 3, the last criterion was to explain how research has impacted your teaching approach. And pretty much everybody did that. I think there are a couple people that didn't hit on that topic, but everybody's, oh boy, research has really changed the way I teach, I'm much more open, or whatever it is. Great. But okay, well, how about in the future? So you most of you did not get full points for that because yeah, how it impacted you, but how are you going to carry that out? So, in this master's course, that's why we have you save things into a portfolio, is we want to know that when you leave us, you'll be able to continue growing personally and professionally as an educator. So that's what I was looking for in this assignment. I know how it's impacted you, but how's it going to continue to impact you? How are you going to continue to use research to enhance your teaching approach? So I I put that in my feedback to you, but I just wanted to kind of highlight that was the one area in this paper that I'm not sure anybody got full points because nobody talked about what's to come. All right. So I think that's all I had. Everybody's doing very well. I'd love to see the engagement in the course, discussion forum. Some of you are so expressive and appreciative, and you're really adding to what the reader might know. Like I say, if you provide resources, that's a great way to get some bonus points. Ask follow-on question. So with that, I'm going to say goodbye. I'm very pleased with how things are going, and I look forward to the rest of the term. But as always, if you have any questions at all, please just let me know.